Right, yeah, I think we're all up and running. Have you been up to anything this week?
Apart from being really hot.
Oh, I know, it's lovely. It's lovely and it's not.
It was a nice, to be honest, it was a nice little walk here, but it is really warm. This week, I've watched a couple of things. I watched Colin from Accounts.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Australian comedy, really good. I watched They Cloned Tyrone with John Boyega on Netflix. That was worth a watch. Very Black Mirror-ish. I watched Barbie, which you've seen last week.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I really loved it as well. You were saying about the competition between the two.
Yeah.
Why? I don't
like it's almost like you've got to choose which one you like, and I'm like, appreciate we have two amazing films for completely different reasons out in the cinema, and just embrace it.
Well, it's like Star Wars and Star Trek, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like some people don't think you can like both.
No.
It makes no difference. If you like both, you like both. The other thing I've been doing, though, flat pack furniture.
Oh, mind you, I know everyone goes, ooh, flat pack. I quite enjoy putting it together.
So, I did till this week.
Oh.
I enjoyed putting flat pack together, but we got a sideboard, and it's the worst thing I've ever put together in my life. It was just so awkward. I must have undone it about 3 times as well.
Yeah, once.
Well, just to give you an example of how bad it was, I thought it's just me. Why am I struggling with this? Am I just tired and being stupid? Donna went on to Argos, which is where we got it from, to look at the comments. And people went, it's great, apart from the instructions are like the Krypton factor. And someone generally commented, buy this, but only if you're in a strong relationship.
Do you know what? We generally get stuff from IKEA, and I love building IKEA stuff because they're like big jigsaws to me. But I've got to say about the strong relationship, the last thing we bought was I think it's called a day bed in the spare room.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be a sofa with a mattress, and you pull the bottom bit out and it turns into a double bed, which I said, Jack, just get either a good sofa, a good single bed, or a good bed. Don't try it to be all three. And it was the most complicated, annoying build to the point where I used to get someone round to give us a bit of help because we had to shear one of the nuts off because it just wouldn't go in, and then it messed up, and it was like so. I managed to get away with it, but oh god, yeah, good strong relationship is
vital.
Hello and welcome to Watch It If You Can. My name is Liam.
My name's Dave.
This podcast is all about box sets we've created of our favourite films and TV shows. Some you've seen, some you haven't, and others you may never want to watch. However, we can say if you've never seen Knives Out, eat shit. All we want to do is chat on about these films and TV shows we love so dearly, and maybe, just maybe, watch it if you can. Dave,
Liam,
how are you?
I'm all right. Just really warm.
Yeah, it is warm. So this box set, we've done things a little bit differently. We picked 5 themes of the films, and the main Dave both bring one. Last week I brought my mini-series, which was Our Friends in the North. This week Dave has picked the film that I have yet to see, well, until the other night. So, Dave, what was your choice?
So I picked for you SuperBob.
Yay!
So when did you watch it?
Monday night.
Oh, okay, so it's fresh.
Yeah, first time, yeah. So that was literally the first time I've ever seen it.
All right. I'll tell you a little bit about it then, listener. SuperBob is a 2015 British comedy. It's directed by John Drever. It's about Robert Kenner, who is our Bob of our SuperBob. And he's a postman in Peckham who develops superpowers after being hit by a meteorite. The whole film was shot in just 19 days. After an incident where Bob crashes into the Shard, he's then recruited and trained by the Ministry of Defence, and he becomes the world's first official superhero and civil servant. The film, it's a mockumentary. It's all filmed on Bob's day off, and it's all to show the public that Bob is basically just a normal guy. And the film focuses on his home life. It features his cleaner and also his security guard, considering he's a superhero, but it's a union thing.
It is. I really enjoyed it. What is it? Why did you choose SuperBob as the film that I've not seen until Monday?
I know you've been watching a few of the Brett Goldstein things, which we're going to get into. So it was partly because he's in it, and I know obviously you must like him.
Yeah,
okay.
God, yeah.
I think at the moment he doesn't. But first of all, I think we both like superhero movies.
Yeah.
We both like British comedies.
Yeah.
We both like mockumentaries.
Yeah.
And it's only 85 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's
like tick, tick, tick,
yeah,
tick.
I thought, if I'm going to pick something you haven't seen, I wasn't going to give you like JFK, which is like 3 hours long, I thought.
Oh, I've seen it anyway.
Yeah. And you've seen it, which would have been the same. But I thought I'll give you something that, similar themes, because we've watched all the Marvel films together, and this was a superhero film that I've seen and you haven't seen, which is rare in itself. And you just don't get films that are 85 minutes long. I've got no problem with like Oppenheimer's 3 hours, and 3 hours flies over. But some of the Marvel films have been like 2 hours 40.
Yeah, a little bit bloated.
Touching 3 hours, and this is perfect. For me personally, it just went a little bit under the radar. It's because it got a 4-star review in Empire, which I do read. And I don't think it played long enough in the cinemas for me to probably catch it at the time. And its main star, obviously Brett Goldstein, who we're going to talk about, he wasn't a household name at the time. So there probably wasn't a lot of incentive to maybe go see it at the time, because it probably wasn't even on. The cinema that we go, when we go to Fact, we only got 2 screens, and it probably wasn't even on then. But I love the character. He's clearly in the beginning anyway. He's just the worst person you'd want to give superpowers to. You know, it was one of the interviews that the documentary, they say he's a dullard. That's what you get, which is harsh. And he's just clearly not equipped to be a superhero by kind of those normal standards. But like Clark Kent, he is generally a good person.
Yeah.
I love about it just some of the normal moments. Seeing someone with superpowers talking about his household bills.
Yes.
Who he should get his electric from.
Yeah.
You know, just having the cleaner, just being awkward around women, and doing his little craft projects and shopping for shirts for his date. So it's a superhero movie, but it's not, is it?
No, not at all. Had you seen this before Ted Lasso, or is it since Ted Lasso came out that you watched it?
I think I've seen it after season 1.
Okay.
Ted Lasso, yeah. I can't remember. I can't remember how it popped up. I probably just Googling who's this Brett Goldstein, which I realise now. I had already seen him before, but he just wasn't in that.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed watching it for one of the different reasons. Is when I lived in London, I lived in New Cross Gate, which is literally just down the road from Peckham. If you're on the bus coming down from London, it's literally a few stops before. So a few scenes where he's out and about in the street, I do recognise it quite clearly, because Peckham, you always think, I think we mentioned it the other week about Only Fools and Horses, but actually it's a completely different vibe. Peckham, it's an amazing place. I live down the road, New Cross Gate, which is very similar. Yeah. A lovely place, lovely part of the world. People have a bit of a negative on South East London, but I loved living down there. Great place to live.
So I've posted some of the pictures of the movie recreation ones. We might have to go to Peckham and do some SuperBob ones.
Because the bit where he's outside the library and stuff, I recognise, and a couple of where the shops are, you'll recognise.
We could find the church as well.
Yeah,
I think,
definitely. Yeah. All right then. So, who is in SuperBob?
Okay, so we've already mentioned Brett Goldstein. So I had seen Brett Goldstein because he was in Doctor Who. And he played Tom in Derek with Ricky Gervais as well. And I'd already caught a couple of episodes of Hoff the Record.
This is another mockumentary, isn't it?
Yeah, with David Hasselhoff. I haven't seen the whole thing, I'll be totally honest, but I have seen a couple of episodes. But it was his podcast, Films to be Buried With. And I'd suggest listening to it.
Guests on it, doesn't he?
Well, he was interviewing Kevin Smith, and I love Kevin Smith, so I listened to all of Kevin Smith's stuff, and he was on in December 19. So I listened to that episode, but obviously didn't know who Brett Goldstein was.
Yeah.
I just listened to it because Kevin Smith was on, to be honest. But it did then get me into his podcast, and I still listen to it now. Obviously then he popped up, in 2020, Roy Kent in Ted Lasso. He's won back-to-back Emmys. That's the role, really, that's made him famous.
Roy
isn't it?
Kent is just an iconic TV character.
We know, obviously, it's, I'm going to say loosely based on Roy Keane, but probably not loosely at all, is it?
Roy Keane's probably funnier. But Roy Kent, oi, whistle!
Whistle's amazing.
It makes me laugh every time.
We'll talk a bit more about his writing.
Yeah.
He is a writer on Shrinking with Harrison Ford, but he is soon to be coming back to superhero movies in the MCU as the Son of Zeus Hercules.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him at the very end of the last Thor movie. A show I'm going to recommend, without even seeing it though, is Soulmates, which came out in 2020. I haven't seen it, but...
No, pass me by this one as well.
Snave Snook from Succession's in it. So I can't believe I missed it. So I'm definitely going to be revisiting that. But have you got any recommendations for Brett?
No usual stuff. I've only got something to dig out is Drifters. So it's an E4 series. And I sort of stumbled upon it as I was doing a bit of research. He came in, he acts in it. But he was brought in, and by looking at his history, I think before Ted Lasso really took off, he seemed to be a person to go to he's down as additional material for a lot of writing credits. So he was down as additional writing, but he was actually in Drifters. There's about 3-4 series in E4. It's the 3 girls that are from the In-Betweeners movie. I think it's the first one where they go to, is it Iron Apple or somewhere like that, not the Australia. And originally, because it's by the same producers of the In-Betweeners, the idea was it was the 3 girls then come back, and it's there, but it didn't quite materialise, but It is the same 3 girls who's in the In-Betweeners movie, and it's basically life. They get a house share together because they're in university in Leeds. But interestingly, there's a few good writers on it. Phoebe Wallace
Bridges
is one of the. She wrote an episode as well back about 2014.
Oh, right.
So I was like, oh, I need to go back and have a look at it. So that's the one I picked out to go and have a look. Drifters on E4, and I love the In-Betweeners anyway.
So just an excuse to watch In-Betweeners again. Natalie Tennant is Doris, who's mainly known for her role in Harry Potter. I'm going to get her name wrong here, but it's Nymphadora Tonks.
That's right, yeah.
I think it's pronounced that. And in Game of Thrones as Osha, and she also appeared recently in The Mandalorian, and she's in John Wick 4.
She is. I didn't realise, but she's in About the Boy.
Yes.
I think she must have been quite young in that. And she's also, when she was quite younger, in Shameless, which I think is a show that doesn't get the credit it deserves.
I've never watched it,
I've
never watched the UK or the American version.
I haven't watched the American one. It's highly thought of, but the British one is really. There was a couple of series where it was just top notch. It was really good. Well, she also plays Rebecca Vardy in the Vardy v Rooney.
She does, yeah.
I haven't watched that, but I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit OTT. But I might check that out at some point.
Next up is Catherine Tate. She plays Teresa, who is Bob's boss at the MOD. Obviously famous for the Catherine Tate Show. Was you a big fan of that?
Yes.
With Nan. I wasn't sure if that'd be your type of comedy, to be honest.
I remember her show. I didn't mind the show. She had a couple of decent characters. I didn't like Nan the movie, which incidentally Brett Goldstein is one of the writers on. But I did like the character Nan.
Yeah, I like the show. She's back this year in Doctor Who with David Tennant after being in it previously for 19 episodes. So really looking forward to that. She did appear in another mockumentary because she's in the US version of The Office, isn't she?
Big fan.
And she was recently drunk and hilarious here in Liverpool at Eurovision, which if you haven't seen that clip,
no,
watch it on YouTube.
Oh, I need to watch that now.
You got any recommendations for Catherine?
The Office for me is, I'm a big fan. I think the US Office just totally blows the UK Office because it takes the premise and then it just goes like there's like 12 series, so it obviously goes further. But I just think they add just something a lot more to it, and she comes late into it after Steve Carell has left. Really, I think there might be a little bit of an overlap. I think because they had some some big people come in to replace Steve Carell. Will Ferrell, and she was one of them. But she's actually really good. She doesn't play. She plays a similar character to what she's in SuperBob, if I'm honest, as well.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So it's not a million miles, but which is not I like Catherine Tate. I think she's quite good.
She's really funny, yeah. Laura Haddock is in it as well. She plays June. She was in, as we were talking before, she was in the In-Betweeners movie from 2011. She had a very, very small cameo role in Captain America.
She did, I've got that.
She was also in Luther with Idris Elba, who we've just mentioned. And she's in a couple of Netflix series, which I do need to check out. One called White Lines, and the other one's called The Recruit, and they look really good, actually.
I got it down as, and passed me by, she was in it, Ripper Street.
I've seen Ripper Street.
It's what's his name? Is it Matthew McFadden from Succession and Jerome Flynn, who went on to do Game of Thrones afterwards, didn't he? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, but I can't think who she is.
No, I can't remember. I just remember seeing her, yeah. But she's you mentioned she was in Guardians of the Galaxy as well, didn't you?
I didn't know. Was this in the last one?
No, she's in all three. She's Peter's mum.
Oh, she is Peter's mum,
yeah,
isn't she?
Yeah. So she's actually one of them few actors that's been in two different characters in an MCU film. Not that the autograph hunter in Captain America was much of a role.
Because wasn't that all the rumours? That you've said that. Because wasn't all the rumours that might have been his nan and stuff like that? His mum might have been related to that character. I totally forgot all about that, yeah.
The only other one I don't know, because I think these are the only actors you've got, is the actress who played Pat, his mum, Ruth Sheen, and I know you may have spoke about this. Remember BBC's Ghostwatch, the one with Mike Smith,
the fake,
she was
fake
in
mockumentary, essentially, yeah.
And that still gives me shivers when I think about that. I think that's probably the reason I don't watch horror films.
You're gonna have to tell listeners what this is, because if they're not our age, they'll have never heard of this.
God, it must have been
80s. Was it?
No, I think it was early 90s. Sarah Greene and Mike Smith were famous for Saturday morning TV. Basically, did a show called Ghostwatch, and it was a pretend live show, because Michael Parkinson was the studio host, and they cut back to this apparently most haunted house in England, and it just goes terrifyingly wrong, and it's unbelievable real, to the point where I think it's still a moment where the BBC had the most complaints ever. People lost their shit over it. Like, seriously.
Didn't they get Orson Welles to do War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
And people thought it was real.
Yeah.
But this was advertised as a
genuine
BBC show.
And it was really before you knew the power of it was pre the genre of mockumentary almost, which I think we're going to go into a bit later, but it was, it still terrifies me when I think about it, because I wasn't that old when I watched it, like, so, and I think it is one of the reasons they don't do horror films, because I don't know into that. All right then, so there, who's in it? It's not a big cast, because it's quite a low budget movie, isn't it?
Like I say, shot in 19 days, probably with not a lot of money. You can't have too many people, can you?
No, and you can tell by the budget as well. Do you know what I mean? The special effects are so minimum, which makes it, that's part of the charm. Right, okay, so it's not a big cast. So out of the small pool of characters, Dave, who's your favourite?
It's got to be Bob.
It's just... There's not much to choose from, but yeah.
Yeah, he's the title character, and it's the whole Snyderverse argument over what they did with Henry Cavill, and he wasn't hopeful enough.
Yeah.
And I think Bob, he's just this generally awkward person, but he does want to be a good person, and he wants to have a nice life. He wants to do good. You know as well, like, this is obviously the first movie, and it's like a very short movie. You know he's going to grow into the role if they'd have done sequels, and it was going to be a big franchise. We never really seen any of what we see with Bob in the last few Supermans. That little bit of genuine, like, a nice guy with hope. So I just think it's got to be Bob for me. Yeah,
it's just a normality of, you love that contradiction between the superhero and the norm, like the paperwork. He always got them to sign a disclaimer when he saves someone. That's because in reality, if we did have a superhero and he came to save you, he would be bound by health and safety registration.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
If you injured someone rescuing them, you'd get sued.
Whose fault is it?
They would.
This is the whole Civil War argument, isn't it? It's Scovia Accord.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a good point, but I just think, as a whole, Beth Goldstein's performance, I think, is brilliant. He makes a character who could be really dull, quite interesting, and then, lovable by the end, I think, as well.
Definitely. I knew you were going to go for Bob, because I would have gone for Bob as well, but I think an honourable mention for Doris. I think she does give that little bit of deadpan comedy to his character as well.
Yeah.
And
she plays off him so well, doesn't she?
Yeah. And, you know, loud and crazy women. That's right up my street.
Oh my God. So that was the last episode for Lee.
Divorced.
Next week, it'll be just me on my own.
So what about favourite scene then?
So
quickly moving on.
Cuts. For such a short movie, there's loads. I like when he's singing in the church.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all, you know, he's so happy about it, isn't he? And then
it's the bit at the end, he goes, oh, it's so nice to let me go early. And then he carry on singing in the background.
It's so like, it's just cringy.
His sheer enjoyment of singing though was joyous.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a character that's very sort of similar, like a Ned Flanders almost, like nothing kind of bugs him. I like when he's walking down the road and a little old lady just calls him a lazy shit. Because it's his day off. The whole idea that the mockumentary is it's Bob's day off. He has a Tuesday off. It's part of his civil service contract. And he gets called a lazy shit because he's walking down the road. It's just all those scenes of him doing normal things, I think, is what you never ever see in a Marvel or a DC type thing. But my favourite scene overall, we're going to talk about the writing a little bit later on, but I think when Doris and Bob are shopping and the MOD rings and Doris is saying to him, just tell them no. And he makes a comment about how she can't say no to men. Yeah. And it's so awkward, and it just shows again how awkward he is around women. And she makes him sign like the psychic paper, which is a Doctor Who reference, to say basically.
I didn't get onto that.
Yeah, but she says sign the thing, which the paper says like go fuck yourself, basically. But I think that scene is just an insight of what Brett Goldstein will go on to do with Ted Lasso. I love that scene. It's that mix of like drama, comedy, and heartbreak. And
definitely,
it's like a 30-second scene, but it's so awkward, and I loved it.
It's similar. My favourite scene is the awkward goodbye kiss at the end where he comes to say goodbye.
Yes.
And is it Xavier ever just stood there? He goes, okay, that's enough saying goodbye now, because he just get caught him. But it's so awkward because I love the bit he was
stuck at his arm around him, wasn't he?
I love the bit he's trying to say, you've got a lovely face. He goes, no, don't talk rubbish. And then that's how he gets Doris in the end, the other guy, by telling he's got a lovely face. He's like, that was my line. But that awkward kiss at the end is just so awkward, and it's like, that's definitely my memorable moment in it.
No, it's great.
All right, then what about music?
There's only really one main song throughout the
which
film.
Is in that scene I've just mentioned, the kiss, wasn't it?
It's the kiss. There's like an earlier dance scene. It's by a guy called Matthew P, and the song is called End of the World, and it's the main song for the whole film, really. Okay, what would you change about SuperBob? So I think they missed a chance, because one of the best scenes in Iron Man, and probably all of the MCU, is when Tony's learning to use the suit.
Yeah.
And I'd have liked to have seen a little bit more of Bob learning the powers, because you see a little bit of a flash of him learning use his powers. We see him trying to fly. He uses lasers from his eyes, and he accidentally shoots someone off camera, which is funny.
Yeah.
I'd love to have seen a little bit more of that, a bit more of him getting to use the powers, because I think with Bob as well, that could have been something that was as good as that Iron Man scene.
Definitely. I think watching it, I think that's purely budget constraints.
Oh, definitely,
without doubt. No, I agree. And sort of weirdly, the bit I always think was a little bit undeveloped was, and it sort of links in what you just said, the relationship between Teresa and Bob. I felt like there was more to explore between them two. Do you know? I don't mean even romantic. I just feel like there was more there. And
how would he put together, basically? Maybe that could have come out in that training scene with her there saying, do this, do that.
Because I love the bit at the post-credit scene. She ends up in Afghanistan. She's like, that's not too bad. So I just feel like there was a little bit more they could have done with that one. But again, I think, it's a short movie. I think it's as good as you're going to get in 80-odd minutes. Yeah,
because I think we're praising it for being under 90 minutes, so it's harsh to then go, well, you should have added more. But I just think that Tony Stark scene is so good, that I'd love to have seen Bob do something
Definitely.
similar, because even just the little flash that we get, you know, of him trying to fly and the ladies, I think that's funny. I'd like to have seen a little bit more of that.
Definitely. All right, then. So the next question we move on to is, what about the impact and impression that SuperBob has made?
So commercially,
Yeah.
so to see it made very little. I mean, the figure I seen was like £2,000.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was like $3,000 overall.
In box office?
In box office, yeah.
That's literally just his family going to see it, isn't it?
Basically, yeah. I look, though, it's got a case for arguing that what came out around that time, I had a little look, and like January 2015, you had sort of Taken Free, you had Paddington, American Sniper was top of the charts with like 300 million. The Hobbit trilogy was still playing in cinemas. I think I've got my dates right. I'm just going to... because it did come out in the December as well. The figures a little bit differently, but like Johnny Depp's film More to the Sea, that came out that month and it only made 45 million from a 60 million budget, but I think that just had bad reviews.
Yeah.
So there's a mix, I think. You can put it down to timing, because there was a lot of things on the cinema at the time. It could have been just simply Brett Goldstein just wasn't famous enough to draw people in.
Doubt, yeah.
And maybe releasing it now at a different time, you know, I'm sure it would have come out. So I think the box office obviously didn't make a big impression. It's more to do probably where Brett Goldstein went next, because he wrote this with William Bridges. William Bridges worked on Black Mirror and working on Stranger Things. But Brett Goldstein did Ted Lasso and Shrinking, and they are two of the best TV shows of the last few years.
I think we had this conversation before, is for me, the impact in this is seeing Brett Goldstein as a writer get them foundations for his building blocks for his writing. You can see, and just by watching it, I don't know what your take on this, but what do you think makes a Brett Goldstein project?
Well, if you watch Ted, it's heavily influenced by Cheers. And I have been rewatching them recently. I know you rewatched them. I'd forgotten how good Cheers was. Yeah. I'll be honest, because I haven't seen it for a long time. You're invested in all the characters. And SuperBob, obviously being less than 90 minutes, you haven't got a lot of time to try and care about these characters. And I think you do care about Bob and Doris by the end. And obviously that really awkward scene that you get. But I think for Brett Goldstein overall, it's that he captures the comedy and the sadness. And I don't know how you manage to do that all in one go. I don't know, you can have laugh out loud moments and then really heartbreaking moments. And Shrinking is just the same. I'm sure loads of people have seen Ted Lasso. I don't know if as many people have watched Shrinking as much. But Shrinking's generally got
some lovely moments.
Yeah.
I think, and if you remember right back when I did the Community podcast, the question was, what is it I love about Community? And I said, it's that thing that American sitcoms can do, that mix of comedy and sentimentality, which we seem to not be able to do as well in this country. I think Brett Goldstein can do that. I think he's one of the few English writers who, and I think just more as well because he does work with other writers, and that's a very American thing. I think it's something there has been flashes of it. I always think back to Only Fools and Horses, that episode after Rodney gets married, and there's that scene with Del Boy's in the reception afterwards, and the Simply Red song comes on, and Rodney's just gone, and he knows he's gone, and it's that lovely Keep Holding Back the Years song.
Yes.
And it's so beautifully done. Del Boy's just left in the room on his own with the music on, and it's just like... But it's few and far between in British sitcom, that lovely heartfelt...
So I thought you were going to say the scene, because you're right. I think when it comes to British comedies, I think we have moments within a series.
Yeah.
But Shrinking and Ted Lasso have moments within every episode. What I thought you were going to say with Only Fools and Horses was when, after Rodney and Cassandra lose the baby...
Yes.
And Del purposely turns the lift off, and they have that conversation... That's prime.
Yeah.
What you see from sort of Brett Goldstein. That scene just, like, it's almost jarring, isn't it? It's like in the middle of because you sit down to watch Only Fools and Horses and you sit down to watch these shows to have a good time and laugh, and suddenly you're like, why am I crying? How did this happen?
The beautiful moments, and I've said all along, I think that's why I'm always a big advocate of American sitcoms, and it's for that reason, because I think comedy is at its best when it's grounded in reality. So most of reality when it comes to is relationships. That's what we like to watch. So it just works so well. But I was seeing an interview with Brett Goldstein the other night, and really good point he made when he was asked about, you know, how he writes. And he said one of the things he's learned heavily over the last few years is, and he uses the word intentionality. And he was like, I don't know if it's a real word. He said, everything you have on that page is there for a reason. And I think sometimes, what he's trying to say is sometimes, especially in British sitcoms, they just have a crazy character who just comes in and out every now and again and can be funny and has funny moments. Yeah. With Brett Goldstein, he said, I didn't want that. I wanted the story to be funny, and what's on the script, what he's trying to do and say, that's funny. Not just someone coming in and doing a bit of a turn every now and again. And you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you have that crazy neighbour who comes in and just it has no part of the plot. It doesn't drive the story or do anything, but it's just a funny moment. He's saying no, what he wants, everything is going somewhere. And I think when it's grounded in that love story, that heartfelt, touching moments, I think it really works really well.
What I've heard him say as well is that he doesn't really like dramas where there's no comedy at all.
Because it's not real.
It's not real. And I think the prime example, and I can't remember whether I was listening to him talk about this or this just from another podcast, but they were talking about Succession, and with the funeral, spoilers, there's a funeral in Succession. The three of them are making jokes.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what kind of happens. It's like Ricky. Have you ever heard Ricky Gervais talk about when I can't remember who is that dies, but at the funeral the uncle turns up and his brother says to the guy, he goes, "Is it worth you going home?" But it's that sort of comedy, which especially I think us being Scousers
definitely, because
we make comedy out of the worst.
It's how we make life bearable. Like, come on, I've mentioned, you know, my dad passed away. Mentioned on the other episode, but I keep making a joke in work when my boss has said something. It's like, oh yeah, my dad died. And it's become a joke. And it's just how we deal with stuff. And he's like, oh, you haven't done that. He's like, well, what do you mean my dad's died? And it's become a running... And not just me, the whole team is saying it now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it shouldn't be funny. But God, it's hilarious because it's real. It's just...
There's humour everywhere, isn't there? I think... If you're writing something without dropping a line in or without dropping a reference in that makes someone smile, or whatever, like you say, it's not. It's like the whole thing in shows where people always call each other by the names. That no one does that in real life, do they? You just say "hiya, mate," or you say hello, whatever. And I think it's exactly the same with this. You will always find something funny, no matter what the topic is. And
I think as well as, when it comes to comedy, nothing should be off topic to be funny. Do you know what I mean? We've had this conversation before. Funny and offensive, there is a line, but I think there's nothing off topic that can be funny.
It's all to do with what's the target of the joke.
Yeah,
and like if you saying with your dad, the target of the joke is you.
Yeah,
you are using that as an excuse when you've done something wrong or you don't want to do something to go.
Or in my case, not done something.
You're not done something. My dad's that. You're the butt of the joke, you know, and it's not to make anyone else around you uncomfortable because they know the joke. I just think Ted Lasso, it has got. Now I've gone back and I'm watching Cheers again. It has got. I see a lot more of where they get the influence from, especially from Cheers.
Because it doesn't. And Frasier's exactly the same. There's not a wasted line or beat in that script, and that again is the intentionality. Everything's there for a point and a purpose. There's no wasting space or time or a moment. It's just bang, 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 and keep moving.
Lovable characters.
Yeah.
You know, even characters that you don't like and then you soon love. Because come back to Frasier, sorry. Frasier, when he comes into Cheers, is dead pompous. And who is this guy? Because, you know, you're going accustomed to Norman, Cliff and everything. And obviously by the end, he's one of the best characters in it and got his own show. And it's the same with these shows. But I'd like to see a SuperBob. sequel, maybe.
It would be
now
interesting now if he goes back and sort of, is he still in Colombia for a start?
Yeah, he's got the clout to do it, sure.
I think it will be quite interesting. Right then, so to our listener who listened to episode 1, Boxset 3 last week, you will know that we jibbed off the mystery box. The mystery box has been
taken to the tip.
Yeah, we took it to tips. No more. It's packed away. And what we've replaced it with is a quick fire round. Now, Kenny gave me a bit of feedback the other day about the last episode. He said it lacked a bit of drama, our quick fire round. And I was like, oh, all right.
It's because he's young and he's into it. They need the drama, don't they?
I was like,
these kids.
So, I've gone away, and to give us a bit of drama, Dave, I've created some music for it. So, Dave, this is your quick fire round.
I'm nervous now.
Kenny, can you dim the lights? Thank you very much. Now. Right, Dave. I've got 5 questions. I must take your first answer. You have 2 seconds to answer. I'm nervous now.
You're making me nervous. Is it a prize?
No? Okay. Oh, hang on. No coughing. Like, there's only who wants to be really
I get all the look like him.
Okay. Question 1. What superpower would you like?
Invisibility.
Which superpower would you most likely get?
Tiredness.
Okay. Choose one. Ted Lasso or Shrinking?
Ouch. I'm going to say Ted because it's finished.
What would you bring to the Diamond Dogs? Ow!
Me personally?
Yeah, what would you bring to the Diamond Dogs?
I've been married for 20 years, so I think I'd be like Higgins. Got that advice.
Okay, that's good.
My wife won't agree.
Especially over flat pack furniture as well. Okay, last question. You are a contestant on ITV's Blockbuster. Which letter do you ask Bob Holness for?
Well, you've got to say give us a P.
Yes! It's a P, bees, Bob. I can't even say it. I messed it up. I messed me up. Oh, right, moving on. Was that more dramatic for you, Kenny? I hope so. Did you like the music?
Can we put the lights back on? I can't see
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lights back on. Thank you, Kenny. He's a good lad. Right, okay, so back to the serious stuff. SuperBob, where can the listener watch it?
So you can watch it if you're an Amazon Prime customer. I will warn you though, it's on that Freeview, as it called. So it
Freeview. Oh, it's a bit weird.
There's adverts on it,
and they're just timed, I'd say, every 20 minutes, so it can literally be right in the middle of a scene and an advert just jumps in. But what I've noticed when I watched it the other day, all the adverts for their own shows, it's like they've got no one to advertise on it. I think there was a Diet Coke advert right at the end. It was like they've got no adverts to show.
Yeah,
it's a bit weird.
So if you want, you can pay for it. You can watch it on YouTube and you can watch it on Google if you want to pay. But if you're already an existing Amazon customer, watch it on there. Just be aware that, to be honest, it's quite nice sometimes having an advert.
Yeah.
I know it's really odd.
Yeah,
but even when I'm watching a recording on Sky and the advert comes on, even though I know I can fast forward, sometimes I think I'll nip the loo and then I'll come back. Because that's what
Go and get a drink.
That's what it was for. Yeah.
Do you know what's really weird? Like the Freeview, I don't know if you know about it, is originally it was branded as IMDb TV because Amazon own IMDb, don't they?
Right.
So it was there branching out into TV, and for some reason he'd launched it as IMDb TV, and he had a couple of TV shows. Bosch Legacy is one of the big ones they've got on there. And for some reason, he just rebranded it as Freeview. And I'm like, well, IMDb was a brand, so I get that. Why rebrand it to a completely... Just be Amazon, just be Prime. I don't understand what they're doing with it. It's confused me. Anyway, so, as always, we get to the point of the show is, if you like SuperBob, what else would you like? I'm going to go first. The first theme I went with... British rom-coms. We love a rom-com, and we do love a British rom-com. There's something quintessentially British about a British rom-com. So, and I've already mentioned it, could have picked any of the Hugh Grant ones, but I'm going to go with About a Boy. I just love it. I think it's one of Hugh Grant's best ones.
Nicholas Hoult, isn't that?
God,
he's just a kid, isn't he?
Yeah, he is only a kid, yeah.
And now he's like...
a big multi-worldwide superstar.
Yeah, did you see the ones he missed out on though recently?
No.
So he was meant to be in Batman, but Robert Pattinson got it. He was meant to be in Mission Impossible, the last one, but he had to drop out because of a scheduling thing and because I think COVID hit it. And then he was up for Superman.
Interesting.
Yeah, a really good actor, but in that he's like, he's just a kid.
Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he? What else I love yesterday is that...
Wow, what happened yesterday?
Oh. It is
dad joke.
I know, dad joke. Alert. We should
Good.
have a klaxon whenever we make a dad joke or something. Yeah, yesterday I think it's just a great idea of what would happen if the world all forgot Beatles songs. It's still just that moment where Ed Sheeran's Let's Write a Song, and he comes back and does Long and Winding Road, and Ed Sheeran's like, oh, just what's the point? I think it's a great...
I like the line, I can't remember if he's looking at the chart or something, and there's no Oasis, and he goes, that figures.
Also, Last Christmas, the one of Amelia Clark.
I haven't seen that.
It's okay.
Is this with the Wham songs?
Yes, it is. It's quite a good film to watch. I like Amelia Clark. I think she's great. Brassed Off.
That's a great film.
Pulled that one out the back for a while. And there's a little link to Catherine Tate because she's in this one. James McAvoy film called Starter for 10.
I love that, yeah.
It's a great film. That's a little forgotten about film, but I love that one.
University Challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. He comes from quite a way comes background and he wants to go to university and prove himself.
Loads of British, like, really big British actors, that, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's a good film.
Yeah.
The other theme that I went with, because obviously SuperBob is a superhero film, is I picked out some non-Marvel and DC superhero TV and films. I went with, and we did mention it last week, the first series of Heroes, I think, was just brilliant. And we mentioned it before, it got absolutely... It never recovered from the original writer's strike, if you don't, because they cut. I think it was the second or third series. They had to cut it, and
it's the third. It's just awful.
Yeah, really. It just never recovered, and it was a shame because up until that point, it was really good.
The first series is probably one of the best. Series of anything.
It's absolutely fantastic. I've also got the Umbrella Academy.
I haven't seen that, you know.
It's absolutely
fantastic. Has that come up to its last season?
Yeah, I think the 4 final series is due this year. Really, really good. Netflix have absolutely played a blinder on that one. The other one that I'm going to mention is both the TV and the film version of The Watchmen, which is an Alan Moore comic. The film, I think it's about 2014. Great film. Absolutely bang on to the comic book. The comic book is fantastic. The TV series went a slightly different route, but phenomenal, and yet not been renewed for another season. It's
amazing. So it's Damon Lindelof that wrote the Watchmen series. From what I've read, he's not that keen on coming back. He thinks he's done, but he wrote Lost and The Leftovers, and that's why it's such a good show. Oh,
it's so... I can't believe, because there was more there. There was so many questions that were left unanswered. I don't know why they did that. Where else to go? Now, it's another Alan Moore. Alan Moore is a famous British comic writer. He's also done V for Vendetta, which is an okay film, but he did The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the film with Sean Connery, which is not a brilliant film, but I love it.
That's controversial, only because I agree with you, but loads of people love V for Vendetta.
I would choose
I'm on your side
League of Extraordinary, and I'll tell you why. Because Sean Connery is outstanding.
Was that his last film?
I don't know.
Probably was, you know.
Right, yeah, near or thereabouts. I just think he just blows it out the water now, and I think it's a crazy story anyway, and you know the comic's brilliant. Yes, V for Vendetta is a great film. Natalie Portman it is, isn't it? Just quite an early role for him. There you go, film. Me personally, I'd go for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's just me, and it's my list, so go away. Kick-Ass, yeah, eat shit. Kick-Ass.
Oh, I love Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass is good.
Mark Strong.
Yes. Yeah. Also, The Incredibles.
Oh, it's the best Fantastic Four film.
Yeah,
because I don't think Marvel's going to ever be able to be.
No,
I think they'll certainly do a good job, and they'll have a great stab at it, but The Incredibles is the best family superhero movie. That's a great thing.
And of course directed by what's his name, who went and did
Bad Bird.
Yes, who we've covered in
Iron Giant. So I've gone with, because SuperBob is a mockumentary, I've gone with some recommendations, Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
I think that was like kind of the godfather, isn't it,
Yeah.
of all mockumentaries. The Office, but I've gone with the British version.
Oh.
You're going to pick the Office.
All day long, yeah.
US version. Modern Family.
Yes.
You're watching that all again the minute, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I'm up to season 10. Absolutely
Of the last
walloped
season.
it. I think there's 11.
Is the 11?
Yeah. Love it.
I love Modern Family. I think it's absolutely genius. I've gone with one I don't think you've ever watched, Reno 911.
No.
It's amazing, and they brought it back for a new series, but what they've done is it's just really, really short episodes. I think they're only like 5 minutes long or something like that.
Because it was one of the girls from Bridesmaid was in it. That's where we last had a conversation about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, she's the mum in the Goldbergs.
Yeah, that's right.
It's Thomas Lennon's like the main star, and you know what you'll know him from? Do you remember the episode where of Friends in Vegas and Joey finds the matching hand?
Yes.
That's Thomas Lennon.
Was it a hand twin?
His hand twin, yeah.
Hand twin.
To be honest, he's in loads of stuff and he's an absolute genius. But Reno 911 is so funny. There was a movie.
I think it's really hard to get over here, though, isn't it?
It's on at Comedy Central.
Comedy Central?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll dig that out.
And I've gone with Best in Show.
Well, of course, that's the same guys who did Spinal Tap.
Yeah, you can't talk about mockumentaries without mentioning
that.
them.
He's like, oh, I can't dance, I've got 2 left feet. No, literally, I have 2 left feet, and it cuts down. It was just, I remember saying, going, oh my God, that just blew me back.
There's way more, but I've just picked them ones out, those 5.
Great choices.
Then I've gone with, as Bob is, reluctant heroes. So I've gone with Keanu Reeves in The Matrix.
Never seen it.
Jesus Christ. Kurt Russell in Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, it's been a while since I've seen
That's
that.
a great film.
Yeah.
Frodo in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
You know, him and Sam are reluctant heroes, really. Han Solo.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
You know, he comes back, doesn't he? And then John McClane in Die Hard.
Of course. Well, there we go. That was Dave's choice of SuperBob. Watch it if you can.
This was a Watch It If You Can production, executive produced by Kenny, our Val's lad, on Work Experience.
Don't forget to follow, rate and share from wherever you get your podcast from.